Hi everybody and welcome back to the Upside Dan. Today I'm going to be getting into my spoiler-free thoughts on Marvel Studios' Eternals. The saga of the Eternals, a race of immortal beings who lived on Earth and shaped its history and civilizations. This movie is directed by Chloé Zhao and written by Chloé Zhao, Patrick Burleigh, Ryan Firpo, Firpo, and it is based on the Marvel Comics by Jack Kirby. This movie stars Gemma Chan, Richard Madden, Angelina Jolie, Salma Hayek, Kumail Nanjiani, Lia McHugh, Brian Tyree Henry, Lauren Ridloff, Barry Keoghan, Dong-seok, Harish Patel, and Kit Harington. So I was very much anticipating this after Chloé Zhao's win for Best Picture and Best Director for No Man's Land. I was like, oh good, maybe she'll bring something new, to the MCU, like a visual masterpiece. So that really got my hopes up for this movie. It's about the only thing I think that got my hopes up because I don't know these characters. They did a great job with Guardians of the Galaxy, for characters that we didn't know beforehand, or most of us didn't know, and introducing them and making us love them. I was optimistic about this movie. I was excited. I mean, it's Marvel. I'm pretty much going to be excited for any MCU project. But this one, I was defending it to people. I was like, no, but Chloé Zhao's on board. I understand that just because a good director or award-winning director is on board something doesn't mean that movie's going to be good. Not every movie, every award-winning director makes is amazing, but I was just hoping that she would bring her visual flair and do something really brand new with the MCU. And don't get me wrong, I obviously love the MCU formula. I'm such a huge fan of the MCU. I still want something different in this franchise. I just want that Dark Knight, that Joker, that Logan for the MCU. A really, really well-made movie. There are some, don't get me wrong, I mean, I love most MCU projects, but I was really hoping for something more. So I didn't get that. I still stayed defending this movie a few days before it premiered because it got a lot of mixed reviews and people were disliking it hard. Rotten Tomatoes isn't always a great source, but it was the lowest rated MCU project, and I just couldn't believe that. I was like, there's no way that a Marvel movie this late in the game could be that bad and worse than any other MCU movie. And for me, it's not. It's not the worst MCU project. But I was, I don't even want to say I was let down because I think I brought my expectations down so much leading up to the premiere. I thought that I would definitely at least like it because it's MCU. And I love this cast, and I'm a fan of Chloé Zhao. I say I'm a fan of Chloé Zhao, but I don't really like No Man's Land that much. I think that it's visually appealing. I think it's a very well-directed movie, but it's just not my speed. I love what she did, and I love that she won. I think she is a very promising director. I don't see her flair. I think that there are some good visuals, good locations and stuff in this movie, but I wasn't in awe. Like with Dune, I was amazed. This, I didn't feel so much amazement. It felt, at times, there was a grand scope. This was a grand scope story, and it should have been. I didn't see her directional flair in this. I didn't see her visual flair in this that much. Yes, there was some amazing looking locations, don't get me wrong, and some of the effects were good. Honestly though, some of the CGI wasn't that amazing for what I was expecting. I was just expecting more. It's not to say that it was horrible or bad even, or just not good. It's just I was expecting way more, especially on the visual front. I was nervous with all these new characters. I mean, there's 10 of them, that it was going to be a problem connecting with them. And I think that they did a better job than some people think they did. But I wish we got this in either a trilogy or my favorite idea is a limited series. I wish it could be by HBO, so we could get a Game of Thrones style origin stories of each of these Eternals and talk about Celestials and Deviants. I think that could have been a really good series, and then the first Eternals movie could be basically this third act, well, getting the band back together, maybe quicker, but really you're staying present day. You're not focusing on the back because the origin limited series did that. I think that would have been a really good idea to flesh out these characters more, make me care more about these characters. I think that most of the acting is really good. I just don't think that I really felt something emotional for some of these characters. They were trying to show emotional scenes where, characters on screen were emotional, but I didn't feel it all too much. There were some times I did feel it, and there was some good character development I thought at times, but I thought that they could have done so much better with more time, and not a longer movie, because this movie dragged. It felt longer than Endgame for me, way longer I would say. Endgame goes by, no pun intended, but in the snap of a finger. this was a drag to get through, for me at least. There's a lot of exposition. And yes, there are some scenes where it shows what they're saying. So I did like that. I thought the visuals were really cool there. I did like the way they did some of the exposition, but I wish somehow, I think that a limited series could have showed that more. And we could have lived that. I really think that a limited series would have been just a really good idea for this scope, these scale of characters. There's so many. The comedy in here works, though, I will say. Kumail Nanjiani, he has this, chauffeur and camera person with him trying to make this documentary, and they're really funny together. I think that Brian Tyree Henry is really funny. He's one of my favorite Eternals. I think he gets a lot of the emotion because he has a family, which I love because it's LGBTQ. He's gay, and he has a husband, and they have a son. And I loved the representation here. I wish that Disney stuck to their guns. I won't get too much into this. And didn't censor it to cater to overseas and all of that. I know that they did it for money, I know, obviously. And I had a feeling they would. They didn't budge at first, and then after the weekend, they budged, of course. That character arc's not going to make sense to people, overseas that are getting the censored version. If you take out all of the LGBTQ stuff. LGBTQ exists. It's not a choice to be gay. And it showed the beauty of humanity throughout all these characters because there's so much diversity. There's one that's deaf that has to use sign language. There's different ethnicities, different sexual orientations, which I thought was very important. These Eternals kind of show, and I wish they went more into this, humanity as a whole, I think, even though they're not humans. Some of that was clashing, I will say. But really, I wish that we got more time with these characters before this. There's just too many characters, and I think that the writing, the screenplay is a little sloppy here and there, just with bouncing back and forth from time to time. Although I will say I think that they did a better job than I was expecting from all the reviews. I do think that they did a pretty good job, but it took so long to bring the band back together, so they would show a flashback scene that kind of focuses on the next person, the next Eternal that they're going to collect, basically, go get to help with this end of the world like scenario, and they show a flashback and then go get them, and then rinse and repeat basically. And I just wish if we got more time with these characters, we would have seen how different they really were. They would have each got an arc. I did think some of the action scenes, they were cool. I didn't find them that new. There was enough newness here to make it different than any MCU thing, or most MCU projects, I thought at least. I don't know, I wish it was just different. I wish it was a better made movie and different. This had some stuff that was new, don't get me wrong, but not enough to really impress me that much. There were a couple visuals I was really impressed with, but like I said, I was expecting more with this director, with this story. This one's a divisive one. I know people are liking it, people are on it, people are hating it. I definitely don't. I don't even dislike it. I thought it was okay. I think it's okay enough. I, for one, liked the third act a lot. I know some people had issues with it. I didn't find it all that cliche. I do think I do have some issues with the third act and with Celestials and Deviants, and I wish that we learned more about Celestials and Deviants, and that's where limited series could have came in handy. We could have, throughout their series, each, maybe Eternal has an episode, and throughout their episodes we learn more about Celestials, more about Deviants, and maybe Deviants and Celestials can have more focus on an episode or two. I think that would have just really benefited this movie. I wasn't that impressed with the two after credit scenes. There was one mid-credit scene and then there's an after credit scene. It just didn't mean that much to me, but I am looking kind of forward to what that means for the future. I'm still looking forward to seeing what else Chloé Zhao does, don't get me wrong, in the MCU or out of the MCU or in Star Wars like it's rumored. I'm still definitely a fan of hers. I'm even looking forward to, I would see more Eternal stuff, obviously. I would see really anything in MCU. So before I get to my grade though, comment down below. Please keep it spoiler free down there or label it spoilers. What did you think of MCU's Eternals? Please blow up that comment section. But what would I give Eternals? Eternals gets a 5.5 out of 10 from me. That's a 5.5 out of 10 for Marvel Studios' Eternals. It's hard giving an MCU movie or project that low of a score, but I just wasn't vibing with this one. If you liked what you've seen here and you want to see something else, click around here to see something else. I have other Marvel reviews up. Please like this video, comment on this video, share this video with the Marvel fans in your life. Hit that notification bell, subscribe, and come to the Upside Dan.